Hey there, Brandy. All right, for those folks just joining us, we're gonna just give it a couple minutes here and focus in on a couple of these beautiful specimens we have. We're gonna show you today. We've got like, what, 16 different ones to go through?
Yeah, they're about.
You guys are new here. I'm Ian. I'm behind the camera, but we're gonna focus in on the real man, the real show, Mr. Eric Rada. Here in a second, we're gonna let people filter in, and we'll start talking about our tanks. So yeah, if you're just joining us too, feel free to share this out to anybody who's interested in surgeonfish or tangs and would like a little bit more information about like what to feed them, or be interested in how we feed them, or how we take care of these guys in our facility here. Feel free to share it out. We'll be doing this for about 15-20 minutes. Just getting a couple of things in place. I love this guy. He is beautiful. Powder brown. Cool, thanks Brandy. Thanks for joining us. What do you think, Mr. Red Eye? You feeling good?
Yeah, I think we're ready.
Ready to go? All right,
hey everybody. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to do another one of our live feeds. It's been a little while. Today we're going to be talking about tangs or surgeonfish and their nutritional requirements, along with space and what you want to give them in their aquarium. So as most of you may already know, any tang enthusiasts know that tangs come from very open areas in the reef where there's a lot of sunlight to grow macroalgae and lots of water current. So some of the important things for tangs are lots of water current, which means highly oxygenated water. Because a lot of these tangs come from surge zones where the water is really rough and splashing around and creating lots of oxygen, which is going to help you grow a lot of algae. So these tangs are, like I said, most of them are herbivorous, some of them are planktonivores, but really you want to feed as much vegetable matter as you can. So in order to do that, you can do the veggie clip.
Yeah, they got the Little Fish's veggie clip there.
So we use a lot of nori in here and a lot of veggie clips, and we also feed a lot of pellet foods to the tangs. We like cobalt food a lot because I think on their regular marine pellet, I believe spirulina is the third ingredient. Spectrum New Life, Picari, variety is the key with tangs. You definitely want to give them a varied diet. And some tangs might eat cobalt pellets and some tangs might eat New Life Spectrum pellets. So you just have to mix it up. There's also Formula 2. There's some good frozen prepared foods for tangs. So again, just a lot of vegetable matter in their diet. I'm going to start feeding some pellets here.
Move over to this powdered blue here.
Yeah. Let's go back to this powdered brown here. So this is a beautiful Acanthurus here. This is Japonicus. He's a little hungry.
So what we feed him in there? We got pellets
We got some, this is cobalt, they're ultramarine pellet.
Oh, look at him.
It's like, what? Got something else? He's picking at it. Let's go next door. We have a beautiful zebrasomia. This is the Desjardins or sailfin tang. And this guy's gonna get big. He's gonna get well over a foot long. So again, the key to tangs, especially long-term, you need big open aquariums. They do like some rock work because they will sleep in crevices or cracks and nooks and crannies at night, but basically they just need a big open swimming lane because that's what they have. That's where you find tangs out in the wild. They're on the shallow end of reefs. And they're schoolers. So you'll see a group of them and they keep all the algae in check. They keep the seagrass clean. They will even clean algae off of sea turtles.
Oh, very cool.
So they're kind of a steward to the reef.
So real quick, I just want to thank everybody for joining us, or we want to thank everybody for joining us. We're again doing live feed and focus on surgeonfish and tangs today. Again, if you would know anybody that'd be interested in this kind of information, like the nutrition requirements, or just want to see some beautiful fish, feel free to share it out, and we welcome more the merrier.
Yeah, and most of these tangs you're seeing here today, they are on Diver's Den. The only reason they wouldn't be there is if somebody beat you to it. This one here is iconic. I think everybody knows this is a beautiful Achilles tang, and I love his dorsal fin. the first part of it where the spiny rays are, it's a real light orange, and then it goes into that black. When you put the trademark over the peduncle spine or the scalpel, however you want to refer to it as, that's the Tang's defense mechanism. They all have them. Nasos have two, but a lot of the Acanthurus species, their spine, it can actually lay down in a little groove, and when they bend their tail, it opens out. Naso Tangs, theirs is more permanent, and they have two on each side. Got a nice purple Tang next door. So again, you're talking purple Tang's going to need a big tank too. These guys get about 8 inches in length. And again, Tangs need that open swimming lane. They need lots of current and moving water. They like highly oxygenated water.
Hey, shout out to Jason Langer there. We see you. How's it going, man? We're missing your cookies today.
Yeah, Jason, if any of you have seen the seahorse cookies on Instagram, that's our buddy Jason. He is very talented with the cookies, and he's quite a woodworker too. Yeah. He's an awesome guy. Jason, we always love your support. Thank you. Yeah, he's a little shy. Let's go down here to the chevron tank. Oh, yeah. So those of you if you're new to LiveAquaria, we quarantine our fish for a minimum of 14 days, and we start them out in our QT system, and we go hyposalinity. So we keep it at about 1.018. We have a little bit of copper in the QT system, not a ton, because we put other fish in there, and there are other fish, certain wrasses and angels, that are sensitive to higher levels of copper. Typically, after 14 days, they come out of the QT system and they come into our main system, and our coppers, our levels of copper are a little more elevated in the main system, because we know Tangs can be prone to ick.
Yeah.
So we do what we can, and again, we feed them a lot, because the more you feed them, you're going to boost that immune system and help fight off the protozoans and parasites.
So I saw Brandy say chevron is one of her favorites. It's definitely one of my favorites too. And I'm fairly new to Tangs overall, but they always stand out the most to me. We actually had one of these at our booth at MACNA last year in Las Vegas.
Thanks to Bob at QM. The chevron's a Tenochatus species, so they're a bristle-tooth. They do a lot of rasping. Again, these fish are all going to be grazing and nipping at rocks and eating macroalgae in the wild. People do raise certain types of macroalgae in their sumps. Every Tang is different, so some might eat bacillus and some might not. You just have to play around with it. There's different types of caulerpa.
Got another veggie clip there. And this one also stood out to me, this lemon Tang.
Yeah, this lemon Tang is beautiful. So what's great about, let's go back to that lemon or that mimic Tang. What's neat about mimic Tangs is they will typically mimic centropyge angels. Like, for instance, this one would more than likely be mimicking a lemon peel angel, even though it doesn't have that much blue on it. So whatever angel is more prevalent, dwarf angel is more prevalent where they come from, that's typically what they end up mimicking.
Very cool.
So this guy will probably get like a chocolate color, but I love the mimic Tang because they have a great body shape. I love the fins. You can see this guy's got some nice weight to him too. Here's a nice little square tail bristle tooth. We're not going to feed him much because he is shipping out. This guy's going to Keith in Virginia, so Keith will be getting him tomorrow. So Keith, if you're watching, we appreciate your business and your patronage. And you got a great little fish here. He's thick, he's happy, he's healthy, he's out and about.
You got to go, Trace. All right, thanks for stopping by.
It's a little juvenile Caribbean blue Tang. It's actually a little yellow right now. It's a pretty fish. If you want a good entry-level Tang, this is a great one. They're very hardy. Again, it's another Acanthurus species. These guys come out of the Caribbean. And they get pretty good size too. So that's kind of, I'm going to circle back to that theme. Tangs are great fish. They're very active swimmers, but you have to think long-term. They need a big aquarium, big swimming lane, highly oxygenated water. So you definitely want your gyre pumps, power heads, and lots of different food, lots of vegetable matter. We have a juvenile Sohal Tang here. It's a little pale in color, but he'll color up. As neat as these fish are, they're kind of known as an aquarium bully. So the trick to keeping Tangs, if you're going to try and keep multiple Tangs, again, you want a big tank. And your best bet is kind of like wrasses or African cichlids. Get them as juveniles and introduce them together. If you've got a mature Tang that's been in a tank by himself for a couple of years, I think you're going to be very hard pressed to find anything. It's not going to be happy with any other Tang tank mates. You know, what some people do in anticipation, they will take the more dominant Tang out of the tank or put a glass divider in or completely move it out and let any new Tangs settle in. So it can be done. You can mix Tang species, you just have to be careful with it. You know, there's a lot of common sense involved, and again, you have to provide space. They need a big tank.
Nice too meaty bristle tooth.
Over here we've got a Lieutenant Tang, who's another acanthurus species. You can kind of see behind his eye his badging. That little C is almost like those are the 2 bars of the rank of a lieutenant.
I like that.
These get kind of an olive color. Again, they're not the most flashiest, but I like them. They're a hardy fish. They're a bristle-toothed Tang, so they're gonna keep your rocks and everything clean. Got a nice yellow-eyed coal Tang here. These are very popular fish. They're very pretty, and they go anywhere from kind of a rusty orange color to purple, maroon. They're very pretty fish. So some of these Tangs might be a little shy. They're not used to the camera in their face, and that is the honest to God's truth.
Yeah, we tried to acclimate them a little bit to us before we started.
Yeah, and I think anybody who has fish at home knows, you know, newer fish are always a little more leery in the aquarium. So yeah, let's show some big ones over here. So in here we've got 3 more iconic Tangs. We've got a big, beautiful yellow Tang. We've got a hippo Tang, or Paracanthus hepatus, aka Dory. But that blonde Naso Tang is awesome. This one is on the website too. This is about a 9-inch fish plus streamers. But look at that blonde dorsal fin. It's just gorgeous. And that thing is thick. All these fish are nice and thick in here. So they're liking the pellets.
What pellets are we feeding them again today?
So these are cobalt ultramarine. We like these because they've got a lot of spirulina in it.
So I get you guys a package shot here, so you can see that. Yep. Really good, fresh and natural, all natural food from cobalt. You're loving it.
Yeah, so we feed cobalt, New Life Spectrum, and Hikari. You know, like we were talking earlier, variety. You know, some Tangs will eat certain pellets and some won't.
Hey, buddy. Oh, he doesn't like me. Beautiful fish.
So again, a lot of these fish are on Diver's Den. They have been in quarantine a minimum of 14 days. And they start out in low salinity and low copper, and by the time they get to our main system, we have them at elevated levels of copper, and they are very clean. So obviously we're not going to send out a fish that has any blemishes or defects, or if it's not eating. So
awesome.
Yeah, he's a pretty fish.
So I think we had one more stop to make, if I'm not mistaken. Right?
Yeah, we do. Let's go show everybody. We always go back to, I have affectionately named this fish Abby. It's our yellow aberrant Tang. We've had it close to 2 years now. It's gotten pretty big over just under 2 years.
So we're gonna take you guys a little quick field trip through the facility here. Just to our show tank, because it's kind of like one of the iconic pieces in our facility.
You can watch the floor drain.
Yep.
So this is our 300-gallon show tank. It's our director Kevin Cohen's pride and joy. It's his SPS Paradise. And in here we've got our yellow aberrant Tang.
See his reflection right there.
We got this Tang in the summer of 2017, and it was about 2 inches long, so it's really grown. It's probably, I'd say 5, almost 6 inches in length, but it has a very cool aberrant, or unusual marking of hyperpigmentation.
We actually did one of our deep dive videos, Divers and Deep Dive videos, on our YouTube channel, on our Facebook. You can find that too. We did a real sort of more in-depth spotlight just on this fish here. So if you're happen to be following us on YouTube, or if you don't follow us on YouTube, because we do deep dives regularly, and we also feature unique fish like our aberrant Tang Abby. So
absolutely. And normally we do carry captive bred yellow tangs, thanks to the folks at Biota and Rising Tide Conservation. I believe we have sold out. We had 2 groups and we sold them all, so we hope to be getting some more soon. So to any of you out there that made those purchases from us, that is great.
Yes, thank you.
We really appreciate it, and you know, it's great to be eco-minded and reef conscientious. Absolutely. So also in here we have at least 15 different species of wrasses. And speaking of wrasses, next month in February, our next live feed, we're going to pry Kevin Cohen, our director, away from his desk. Kevin Cerulabris Cohen, he is the expert and aficionado on all things wrasse, so I'm really looking forward to that live feed. You guys can pick his brain. He knows the ins and outs of all of the species, and Cerulabris definitely being his favorite. So
yeah, check us out for next month in February.
Yeah, when we get that date pegged down, we will put that on Facebook. We'll make that a Facebook event. And before we sign off here, I want to thank our manager Patrick. He is one of our coral farm managers. He did a lot of jockeying around, cleaned up the tanks for us. It was co-worker Richie. And I'd be remiss if I didn't thank Ian, my partner in crime, my dynamic duo. I know how to hold the camera well. And did you just say is Julio out there?
Julio, yeah.
Yeah, Julio, thanks again for all your purchases. I know Julio is very happy with Coral Beauty he bought. We hooked him up with a beautiful Harlequin Tuskgrass, and he just bought some backup stuff because he lives out east in the Bronx and he was worried about the storm. I don't think he lost power, but he's prepared. So we have all of that stuff on LiveAquaria too, battery backups, etc. So thanks everybody for watching. Have a great weekend. We're going to sign off here in Rhinelander, Wisconsin. Take care.
See you guys.